Beef singer Angie Stone has died in a car crash. We're told she had just finished a concert in Mobile, Alabama Friday, was heading to Atlanta when the van she was riding in crashed. Whispers have surrounded the tragic death of Angie Stone. Rumors, suspicions, and unanswered questions that left the public stunned. Now at 51, D'Angelo is finally speaking out, shattering the silence and confirming the rumors that have lingered since Angie's untimely passing. What shocking truth has he unveiled about the events leading up to her death? Could there have been more to this tragedy than anyone imagined? You won't want to miss this eye-opening story that could change everything. D'Angelo and Angie Stone's relationship. When two souls meet in the rhythm of music, something bigger than a song begins to play. It was the late 1990s, and the R&B world was caught in the swirl of neo-soul. Deep, sultry, unapologetically emotional. D'Angelo, with his honey-drenched voice and hypnotic presence, was already being whispered about like a secret past between lovers. Angie Stone, a powerhouse vocalist and writer in her own right, had weathered her storms and built her strength. When they met, the connection was instant, not manufactured, not planned, just raw, magnetic, and real. Their love didn't blossom in the usual glitter of celebrity meet-cutes. It started in the studio, where creative chemistry gave way to something deeper. He was magnetic, Angie once said. There was something in his spirit that felt familiar, like I had known him forever. D'Angelo, usually private and hard to read, couldn't help but soften around her. She wasn't just another woman attracted to his fame. Angie saw him. Behind the seductive croon and the moody stares, she saw a man wrestling with greatness and insecurity. She didn't run from it, she leaned in. She grounded me, D'Angelo would later reflect in rare interviews. She wasn't just my partner, she was my mirror. Their bond transcended the music. They connected through pain, passion, and purpose. Angie, older and more experienced, became a quiet anchor for D'Angelo, who was navigating fame at a dangerous speed. She offered the kind of love that nurtured, not just admired. To him, she was more than a muse. She was a healer, a muse, a woman with fire in her chest and grace in her voice. They wrote, sang, and lived together. Their emotions bled into the music. Angie's fingerprints can be heard in some of D'Angelo's early work, not just lyrically, but in the emotional honesty it held. She helped him dig deeper, strip away the ego, and let vulnerability lead. But what made their love so poignant was not just the passion, it was the pain too. Two artists, both sensitive and intense, pulled toward each other like magnets and sometimes repelled just as strongly. We were both intense, Angie admitted. When it was good, it was magic, but when it was bad, it was heartbreaking. They had a son together, Michael D'Angelo Archer too, further binding them in the most human of ways. For Angie, motherhood was already familiar, but this time it came with the hope of creating a different kind of family. For D'Angelo, it brought clarity. Holding my son, he said once, felt like I was holding my whole future. And knowing Angie gave him to me, that was love. Despite their struggles, neither of them ever disrespected what they had. Even after they parted romantically, their words about each other were drenched in mutual respect. Angie never shied away from telling the truth, but she always did so with love. He was my heart, she told Vibe. He was young and still figuring himself out, but I never stopped loving who he was. D'Angelo, often elusive in interviews, would light up when her name came up. She's a queen, he said, a real one. She stood by me when she didn't have to. Their relationship wasn't wrapped in fairy tale bow. It was real, flawed, passionate, sometimes chaotic, but it birthed beauty, growth, and a son who carries both of their legacies. Many fans still speculate on what could have been, but for those two, what was enough to shape them forever. They were each other's muse, each other's challenge, and for a time, each other's home. To this day, when Angie Stone sings about love, there's a certain ache, a richness in her voice that sounds like memory. And when D'Angelo pours his soul into a falsetto, you can still feel the fingerprints of a woman who loved him deeply and made sure he never forgot it. Their love didn't need forever to be legendary. It was a spark that burned hot and left behind echoes that still linger in every soulful note they touched. Angie Stone poured her heart into love. But if you thought she was passionate about her relationship, wait till you see how deep her soul runs in music. Angie Stone's contribution in music industry. The album was laced with deep grooves, gospel undertones, and Angie's raw velvety voice, real, unfiltered, and healing. No More Rain in This Cloud became her signature. It was a heartbreak ballad, a soul cleanse, a reminder that pain doesn't have to be hidden. It can be sung out loud and set free. That's what Angie gave the industry. Emotional truth. She didn't chase trends, she created lanes. With every album, Mahogany Soul, Stone Love, The Art of Love and War, Angie carved out a space for grown woman's soul. Her lyrics spoke of love, struggle, strength, and survival. She sang for the everyday woman, the one holding families together, healing from heartbreaks and walking tall despite it all. She wasn't just a singer, she was a storyteller. And every story came from a real place. Angie's influence reached beyond records. She helped to shape the neo-soul movement, a genre that blended classic soul with modern R&B and hip-hop elements. Alongside artists like D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, and Maxwell, Angie Stone was one of the architects of a sound that brought soul back into mainstream consciousness. But her pen was just as powerful as her voice. She co-wrote and inspired some of the most important tracks of the neo-soul era. She had a hand in D'Angelo's groundbreaking Brown Sugar project. Her fingerprints are all over it, not just lyrically, but emotionally. That was Angie's genius, making everyone around her better. Even when awards didn't always come her way, her impact did. Nominations, Soul Train wins, Billboard acclaim. Most importantly, she wants respect from her peers. Artists look to her not just as a collaborator, but as a blueprint for authenticity. She carried the weight of a genre on her back without ever losing the softness in her soul. Her music still echoes today. Songs like Brother, Wish I Didn't Miss You, and Every Day are timeless anthems. They aren't bound to a year or trend. They live in people's hearts. They're played during heartbreaks, road trips, and healing moments. That's the kind of legacy Angie Stone built. Not a fleeting star, but a soul that stays, and through it all she remained grounded, a mother, a mentor, a warrior who never let the industry steal her magic. From a little girl in South Carolina with a dream to a woman whose voice changed the direction of soul music, Angie Stone didn't just contribute to the music industry, she reshaped it. She did it with love, with pain, and with a voice that sounds like truth. No one ever imagined Angie Stone would leave the world this early. Her voice felt eternal, like soul itself had found a home in her. The night of February 28, 2025 was nothing short of magical in Montgomery, Alabama. Angie Stone, the voice that had comforted broken hearts for decades, stepped onto the stage like she had so many times before, graceful, grounded, and glowing with soul. No one in that venue knew it would be the last time they'd witness her sing. No one even imagined it could be. She sang with the weight of a woman who had lived, loved, lost, and triumphed. Those in the crowd felt it. Her voice wrapped around them like an old memory, familiar, warm, and powerful. As the curtain fell that night, she gave her final wave, her final smile, her final goodbye. And then she disappeared behind the stage, unaware that life was about to deliver its cruelest silence. In the early hours of March 1st, while most of the world was still asleep, Angie was en route to her next destination, Baltimore. She had another performance lined up, another audience to pour her heart into. She was never one to stop. Music was her breath, and the road was part of the rhythm. Her driver navigated the dark stretch of Interstate 65, just south of Montgomery. The highway was quiet, the kind of quiet that can only exist just before dawn. Then everything shattered. At approximately 2:15 a.m., Angie's vehicle was involved in a violent collision on the interstate. The exact details remain under investigation, but sources confirm that the car was struck by another vehicle attempting a high-speed overtake. The impact was devastating. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and within seconds, the car came to a lifeless halt on the side of the road. Emergency services were called immediately. Paramedics arrived within minutes, trying to cut through the wreckage, hoping for a pulse, anything. But for Angie Stone, time had already run out. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The first responders, hardened by years on the job, were shaken. one reportedly whispered, "We just lost someone sacred." Even among strangers, her presence was known. Angie wasn't just another accident victim. She was Angie Stone. The highway that night felt different, cold, unforgiving. The stars above blinked like they, too, were in disbelief. The news didn't reach the public right away. For a few hours, it was just quiet chaos. Calls were made, her family was informed. Team members were pulled from hotel rooms with trembling hands and tear-stained eyes. Backstage equipment still sat packed from her Montgomery show, untouched. Her mic, still slightly warm from her last breath into it, rested on its stand, like it was waiting for her to come back. But she wouldn't. What makes the tragedy even more painful is the normalcy of it. There was no warning, no sign. Angie wasn't battling illness, she wasn't slowing down, she was living, laughing, singing, right up to the very end. And then, in one senseless moment, it was all gone. People always say that some souls seem immortal. Angie was one of them. Her voice had become a soundtrack to life itself for many. To imagine that voice silenced, that heart stopped, that light extinguished, it didn't feel real. It still doesn't. The crash site just a few miles outside of Montgomery became eerily quiet as dawn approached. Police lights flashed like unwanted fireworks against the breaking sky. A life that had touched millions ended quietly on a dark road while the world still slept.